Okay, we are here with Christine Harrelson talking about her new collection of songs. Good morning, Christine.
Good morning.
Do you have a name for the collection yet?
I have a couple of working names, so I'm not really sure yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's dig into this. You did all the recording and played all the instrumental tracks in this collection yourself. You have mentioned the word autonomy. What in that level of control and processes makes a difference for you?
I don't know. I mean, some of it is control in the sense that I don't have to wait for other people to finish things. It's just easier, and I've had some experiences recently where I've answered ads and contacted people about doing some projects, but the consensus is that I wouldn't fit. So I was like, well, I don't have to fit. I can, I can make my own stuff. So it's nice. It's not that I don't like working with other people and that I can't. It's just easier this way for now.
I understand, especially given the fact that you told me earlier that you don't work on completing one song at a time. You work on different ones at the same time in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, most of the songs in this collection have a dreamlike quality to them. Your instrumental parts came first, and the vocal melodies, which come to you in dreams, are last. Mm-hmm. How do you fit the two together, and how much rewriting or tweaking is involved?
It kind of depends on the song. So, not as much tweaking as I would think. But some songs, yes. Some songs do. So I would say once the tracks are done, they're pretty much 100% done. And then the vocals come in. It's very rare that I'll start doing vocals and then go back and change the instrumentals that are already there. So, yeah, I mean, there's a couple, probably like every 5 or 6 songs, I have an agonizing process over, we'll say, like 15%. And it seems like it's never going to get done. But most of the time it comes fairly fluidly.
Okay, so apparently then when you are coming up with the melody, you have in your mind what the whole thing is going to sound like finished?
Yeah, sort of. Like if I come up with a melody first, I have to just record it because I can't write right now. I have a hard time writing a song around a melody. I have to come up with the other stuff first. But then again, it depends. Like there was one instance where I had the melody first and everything came around it. Yeah. So.
Okay. Now you have named vocal influences such as Jeanette Napolitano, Chris Cornell, Freddie Mercury, and Rob Halford. Those are some widely varied styles. Tell me your thoughts in a few words on the following vocalists.
Okay.
Fiona Apple.
I feel like she's kind of limited, and kind of overuses the sultry thing too much, which is fine. It's just I never could listen to more than 1 or 2 of her songs at a time.
I see. Yes, it's an acquired taste. Okay, Michael Stipe.
He's got that thing where he overpronounces all the words, which I find interesting because it sounds like someone's talking to you while they're singing to you. And I do like his vocals. I think he can do a lot. I think he can do a lot with his voice, and he doesn't seem to exploit it. So yeah, I do like him.
Okay. PJ Harvey?
Nothing exciting for me.
Okay.
That's
Tom Waits.
I love Tom Waits. He's definitely, I think, an acquired taste for a lot of people, but for him, he emotes a lot of soul and emotion and creates characters. So I feel like, what he does is it's more visceral. It's not surface.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Got very deep in a lot of his songs.
Totally.
Okay. Last, Geddy Lee.
Oh, he kind of annoys me.
Does he?
Yeah, that sort of whiny, very higher pitched whiny male vocals don't do much for me. I mean, I admire what he can do, but I don't love it.
Have you always worked with electronic instruments? From what point in time did you start that?
You mean like when I was 3 years old? Yeah, pretty much. I picked up the saxophone when I was in 5th grade. That was actually pretty easy, but it was a rental, so we couldn't afford to buy it. So that went to the wayside, and I tried to pick up guitar, and I can only play left-handed, so that leaves me kind of limited. But I just never felt a kinship with the guitar, or any instrument so far that I've picked up. So right now it's mostly electronic, although I did find that I have a certain aptitude for drums and percussion, so I might pursue that.
Good. Yes, join me. You also write prose and poetry. For you, how does that different from your lyric writing method?
It's got to change for the purposes of cadence, So I usually start with something more prose-like, and then I have to chop it up or change words so they're easier to fit into the melody, or even, some things are just easier to sing because they're more vowel heavy. Too many consonants creates that closure of the vocal cord. So sometimes it's just easier to put in more vowel-y, like romance languagey type of so it's definitely different, but I enjoy the challenge because it makes me it gives me structure that I have to work with. Yeah.
So when your melodies pop into your head, then they are lines that are not so much involving consonant sounds or guttural sounds. For you, it's more the opposite direction.
Well, no, I mean, when I'm coming up with stuff, I'm just coming up with stuff, and then as I go to record and refine, I might have to change as we go along, or I might be inspired to just go a totally different direction too. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, we didn't talk about this earlier. Yoga is a big part of your daily life, I know. Is it an influence on your music, and if yes, how so?
I don't know if it's directly influenced, but I think through the practice, which everybody, nowadays when people think of yoga, a lot of people think about like these contortionist poses, and I honestly don't do much of the posture physical practice anymore. I do other things that are physical, so my takeaway is more the meditation and some of the philosophy. So I think that because it's allowed me to grow a little bit and become less scared of being vulnerable, that in a way it's allowed me to to finally start writing vocal parts for my songs, because I've been doing instrumentals forever and ever. So I think it has influenced me to be brave enough to do it. And because I see a lot of parallels with the yogic philosophy to like Taoism and Buddhism, and I'm also always really interested in mythology, so it just sort of, I like to write about mythological things too, and just those overarching themes that just happen to also be part of yoga philosophy. So there.
And I understand from what little bit I know about it that there is self-discipline involved in yoga, correct?
Sure, tapas is one of the precepts.
So you probably need to use that in your songwriting as far as putting things together, especially making your lyrics work with everything else that you've got down first.
Sure. There's that, but I've always been pretty self-disciplined, so I couldn't really attribute that specifically to the practice. If I enjoy doing something, I'll just make it a habit, So that's a good point, though, that that you make.
Okay, yeah, from writing myself, I know that it does take a certain amount of self-discipline, which will kind of lead into my next question, or in a couple of questions here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll move on and point that out when I get to it. Much of electronic music, from what I know, is accused of sounding sterile. Your recording tracks are clean, but they aren't sterile sounding or sterile feeling. Is this due to your method of recording and mixing?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it might be just due to the fact that my musical influences are so varied. It's not just electronic music, there's so much. And I feel like the electronic thing is more like just the easiest way for me to write every part of a song. Like if I could play 6 instruments, I would do it that way, So it's more of a vehicle that I enjoy and that I like playing with and that I do listen to. But it's not my only influence, and it's just the easiest way to compose an entire song at this time.
I see. You, along with that, have cited David Bowie's recording techniques as an influence. What aspects of his recording and mixing methods have affected what you do?
Well, from what I've gathered from various interviews, so I think I know how he recorded because I've, watched enough, and how he didn't nitpick things to death and over perfect things, and I think that's important to put into to all creative endeavors. It extends to all things, right? So. Because I could be that person. And if somebody wanted me to come in and help produce or mix an album and they're like, I need this to be perfect, I know I can hear all the little things. So I have to be able to sort of let go. And, if you want to go back to a previous question, maybe that's where the part of the yogic and the Taoist philosophy has helped me the most, which is not to be such a control freak and have to perform. Everything has to be perfect. It has to have a structure. Every note I sing has to be exactly on. I can hear when I'm a little flat, or when I start a little flat, or I go a little bit too sharp. Like I can hear all that. And then if I step away and I come back and I listen to it as an observer, I say, you know what, that's fine. Who else, who needs things to be that sterile? Like I don't think it helps me anyway. So I think that's probably, when I heard that he wasn't that sort of perfectionist, like, have to do things 100 times I was like, and that really spoke to me, because for some reason I had it in my head that you had to be a perfectionist to record music. I don't know. So.
I know with him a lot of things were made up in the studio. He didn't necessarily walk in with every part in his head, but he would take a suggestion from someone else, and he would say, yes, that's good, but I want it this way, let's do it this way. He knew what he wanted as soon as he heard someone's idea. Mm-hmm. So it was more about the ideas that he wanted to convey than anything else. Is that kind of the way you lean as well?
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
Okay. Now, here's the hardest question to answer. Where inside Christine Harrelson does the music come from?
Well, I guess I could be really cheesy and say it comes from my soul. But then again, that actually is kind of mostly where it comes from. Whatever experiences I've had leading up to this particular moment in time. Just like the sum total of one's soul. I mean, if you look at that as like a ball of energy, and we are all electricity, so there's that. And I think it also comes from, like, I was an only child and I didn't really get a whole lot of attention, so I think part of me just wants to be heard, and I don't really care who likes it, because I think if one person can hear it and get something out of it, then that's good, so yeah, so my soul and my need to be heard and to share, what I'm feeling and my ideas.
Who do you imagine? Who do you imagine your core audience to be? What is your target related to that?
I don't really know that I have a target. Because in my experience, so many people of so many different ages and cultures can all listen to the same thing, So I suppose that I don't suppose I would appeal to a like a Beyonce crowd, but then again, there are people I know who listen to Beyonce and listen to, like, Soundgarden. So I don't know who it would target, but maybe people who like to hear things that sound good, but also care about lyrics too.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Some people do, some people don't care much about the lyrics, and I personally think that a lot of that has to do with how well it's mixed regarding the vocals in a song, and yours seem to be mixed to the point that the vocals are always in the forefront, so you can hear every word. There's no question as to what a line is. Like many artists, you are an admitted car singer. I am too. Mm-hmm. Would you like to take that a step further to live performance of your music at some point?
Yeah, I like being on stage. I used to do theater for many, many years, so I like it, and I would not balk at the opportunity if it was the right one.
Would you want to incorporate theater into that, some aspect of it?
Do I want to go all Alice Cooper? And I don't think. Well, maybe eventually I would. I see, like, if I were to really get into that, I see myself going more the route of, like, David Byrne, how he choreographs stuff. But maybe, I don't know. I think I would just at first be excited to be on stage again doing a a different medium.
I see. Yeah, that would be very interesting with your music. What is the single best suggestion for anyone trying to do what you are doing with your music? What could you tell them?
Well, what am I doing with my music? Like, is that you mean like how I'm recording it and making it happen?
Maybe how you record, ways of writing songs, ways of putting instrumental tracks together, specifics of recording, how to get your music out there, things along those lines.
I don't even know how to get my music out there. I'm relying on the advice of those who do to make that happen by fall. But in terms of the recording, I don't think I could advise somebody because I didn't take a template and do it. I just started doing it, and I don't, So I would just say, just do it. Don't create because you think it's gotta reap a reward or pay a bill or it's gotta be good. Just do it and have fun with it, and make sure that you do it the way you want to, because listening to other people can be helpful, but it can also be very limiting and make you think you're not good enough. So
that's a good point, because I have heard or read in interviews from artists that say that they work very hard to try and put out CDs that would be perfect, that they think, would please people. And when they went back and listened to them, they thought what they did was crap. And once they started writing, got tired of doing that, started writing for themselves and what they wanted, they were much more successful.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. If you're not putting yourself into your craft, there's a lot of I think people can innately sense when somebody is faking it,
Right.
Because going back to Bowie, even he said in his 80s, he said it was his Phil Collins period, and he was not happy at all with what he did, and then he that's when he started Tin Machine and started doing the things that he wanted to do, and then his 90s stuff was phenomenal. So I've done a lot of different jobs in my life. You probably know of most of them because we've sort of known each other for a while, and every time I go to try to conform or do what somebody else says or does, it always blows up in my face. I'm always more successful when I just do my own thing, and I just look at other things as guidance and ideas, but not as, I don't use other people as my template at all. It's never worked, and I've tried it. I keep trying it every few years, and now I'm just like, it's not working.
So you are really employing the Buddhist thought of don't follow a path that's already there, create your own path. That sum it up pretty much?
Yeah, that's a very good insight. Yes.
Okay. So you say you're shooting for the fall to make this available. I'm guessing from what you said, you're not sure where that's going to be available.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten plenty of. I've been told to go through certain things. CD Baby, you can register on Pandora, Spotify. You can. There's other ones too. Like, I have a whole list, and so I want to go through I want to try to do the process right, so I'm, my music is protected. Not like people are going to want to steal it, but nonetheless, it's not like it costs much to copyright. a piece or
Right.
anything. So yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to be available in as many places as possible. I just don't know where yet. And I still have some songs to make because I don't quite have an album. I only have like 7 finished songs, so I still have some work to do.
Good. More like an EP, right?
Yeah, that would be an EP, and I'm gonna make sure I do, a full 10 to 12, depending on what I think is right. Or I'm not gonna go into the 15 song realm though. Not.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to do the Led Zeppelin 22 songs on an album.
If I ever get as good as Led Zeppelin, maybe.
Okay, then lastly, what do you see on the horizon for you artistically?
Well, since music's always been my favorite medium, I want to keep going with that because now that I'm doing something new with it, I just want to keep going. And I mean, I do other, I write, I sketch and draw and stuff like that, but music's always been my favorite. So what would be really cool is if with the release of the music, if I caught the ear of some musicians and maybe did something that was partially electronic, because I still enjoy a lot of those sounds and the effects and the atmosphere that you can create with it, and then maybe work with some real instruments.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your words and your insight, and I wish you the best of luck with finishing the project and getting the music out there. What are your plans in terms of letting people know where it's at once it does come out?
That's another good question. I already have, a Facebook page and a YouTube channel ready to go. So I'm just, waiting until I have some plans in place, because otherwise there's really nothing to post. So people can find me on those 2 mediums right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and good luck with everything.
Thanks.